All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Discovering Multifamily podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Scandariato with Red Knight Properties. And today we have a special guest here with us, Rafael Cortez. He's kind of a jack of all trades. He's an organizational psychologist, he's a real estate coach, he's a broker, he's an investor, and he's a young entrepreneur. He actually, at age 19, he was one of the youngest firefighters in Yuma, Arizona, in the county there. And while he was working as a firefighter, he actually started his own company. It's over 10 years ago now, right? In
Oh,
2007,
it's closer to 20 years ago. I'm
closer to
hitting 40,
20s,
so
man. And so he had his own company then, and he was able to sell it and produce consistent growth. He's currently in the Phoenix area, and he has a bunch of different real estate coaching programs and a podcast of his own as well, which he can talk about with us. But he's really passionate about using his investment knowledge, his entrepreneurial knowledge, and his psychology knowledge in order to create systems to help people grow their real estate investment business or just general real estate business, as well as his own. So he's particularly focused on wholesaling. We had a couple guests on not too long ago that discussed kind of high level what wholesaling is. And that guest particularly talked about, how wholesaling for him and his market was a volume game. We didn't necessarily talk about the systems that the other guest put in place. So we're going to talk about that here with Rafael and how he's able to grow his wholesaling business and his consulting business. So, real estate is it could be, especially in wholesaling, a volume game. So, in order to have to be successful, it's important to have really good systems in place. So I'm excited to hear about what you have, Rafael. Thanks for coming on.
yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
Great.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it is a volume game. I think more even so than any other strategy. There's so many different ways to skin that cat when it comes to real estate and real estate investments, right? But the beauty about wholesaling, not just single family, but I mean, you can do the same with multifamily. I've wholesaled multifamily deals before and that sort of thing. It's really that um, the pool of the people who are actually going to end up doing business with us is relatively smaller than the rest, right? Fix and flippers, they have this big pool of people they can go to because they're paying closer to the retail amount, and there's almost an obvious value add there for them. When it comes to wholesaling, when we're having those conversations, I mean, it's part of the craft, right? Being able to highlight what the value of the transaction is, and always leading with value, I think, is it's the thing that opens up the door. So now, more important than ever, like it's we have to be methodical about, as how we go about the process of running, for example, a wholesaling business, because it's people are getting hit left, from all different angles, you know what I mean, via text messaging, postcards, and all that stuff. So we have to be methodical about what we hit, that way we don't burn holes in our pockets when it comes to marketing budgets and that sort of thing. So yeah, you're completely right.
So just high level, what is real estate wholesaling? What does that mean to you?
Real estate wholesaling, it's the art of finding motivated sellers. It's if you think about it and step back and think about it, we're not really buying the property itself, right? We're acquiring vested interest in an agreement, and we sell the agreement itself. So when we're transacting a wholesale deal, we are selling our vested interest in that purchase agreement, that purchase contract. And the revenues, I mean, you're talking profits. Our average profit is 28,000. I'm in the Phoenix market, but I mean, we've done over $100,000 on a single deal while wholesaling stuff, depending on how much value you're able to add to that transaction. But yeah, it's basically finding a motivated seller, a distressed property or distressed situation, finding out how you can solve the problem for that seller, getting the property under contract, and then selling that contract over to somebody who's going to come in and flip it and fix it or do whatever they need to do with it. A lot of people just do buy and hold, and they turn them into Airbnbs and that sort of thing. So that strategy, it's up to them, right? Ours is being able to find the sellers and then connect them with the buyers, and sell our best interest in the process.
Right. And there's a lot of, like you mentioned, there's a lot of different ways to do that, whether that's, you know, through texting channels or email channels and whatnot. It's probably, I mean, at this point, it's easier, and you probably have a buyer's list of clients
Oh, yeah.
than actual sellers. So that's really how you're generating leads. What are some of the ways? What are some of the systems you put in place in order to do as such?
So marketing, well, I mean, let me kind of break it down. I run the way that I break down the business, and it's this kind of goes across the board because I run my brokerage in a similar fashion. But you can think of a business as different stages, right? Think of them as buckets. The first one is going to be sourcing. You have to source the leads, that the deals somehow, some way, right? Sourcing, then converting. So that's where you start pre-qualifying and having conversations to see if the lead that you source is gonna end up doing some type of business with you, and you're not kind of running around with wasting a lot of time with people who are not right. The next thing, of course, is the acquisitions process. That's how we break down the strategies on negotiating. What's going to happen? Can you make a wholesale offer? If that doesn't work, can you make an option offer? Can you make a creative financing offer? Whatever acquisition strategies you have, play under that third bucket. The fourth bucket is dispositions. How are you going to sell the deal or monetize on that deal, right? One thing that I like about wholesaling is that I cherry pick. I tend to cherry pick the deals that I want to fix and flip, that I want to keep to myself, and that sort of thing, because I'm at the front of the line, right? So whatever doesn't stay in my buy box, or doesn't make it to for me to acquire it, we'll just dispo it to an end buyer, to another seller who's gonna but like, for example, I don't like to do extensive rehabs. And I know a lot of people that do ground up, from the foundation all the way up, and that's their jam, but it's not necessarily my cup of tea. So all the that type of stuff, I push it forward. I make sure there's a big there's still big value in the deal, and sell it to somebody who's going to come in and flip it, right? That's where most companies or most businesses stop. Once they get paid, they dispo the deal. They get paid, close of escrow, and all that. They'll go back to finding another lead, finding another deal, and kind of stay within that hustle. But I think if you skip out on the last two stages or last two steps, it's the ability to automate and delegate your business the right way is pretty much non-existent. The fifth one is is measuring. So I'm big on KPIs. What's working as far as the effort that we're putting in the marketing side. How many offers are we making? What's the conversion rate? What's the cost per lead? When you measure and you track your key performance indicators, it's you can actually improve the sections of the business as you go through every single transaction.
Right.
Which leads me to the last step, which is the sixth. It's improvement. There has to be conscious improvement every single step of the way. We have, for example, weekly meetings where we sit down and we just dissect what happened last week. What deals did we close last week? And we have improvement sessions. What did we do wrong? What did we do right? What do we want to adopt as a standard operating procedure to improve the overall business and increase our bottom line, and that sort of thing? So I break it down into 6 stages, and it basically, I mean, when you break it down like that, anything that you're doing within the business, you're able to plug it into one of those stages: sourcing, converting, acquisitions, dispo, measuring, and improving. Like those are the 6 money makers that we have.
Right. And in wholesaling, like you mentioned, there's a lot of money that unfortunately can be wasted. It doesn't,
Yeah.
get you anywhere. And it's good that you have these KPIs that you're tracking, you're measuring pretty much
Yeah.
every week or every day.
Yeah.
And then you focus on, okay, where are my marketing dollars going to be, most concentrated in order to
Yeah.
get me to where I want to go. For you, what has that been? Now you're focusing on mostly single family homes, I'm assuming in Tucson and to Phoenix area. So what, is it spending money on Google ads, or is it the yellow cards? What's been the most effective in order to, now I'm talking about actual conversions, right? I'm not just
Yeah.
talking about leads.
Okay. Yeah. Deal wise, the top two sources of deals have been cold calling and text messaging. Those two. It's, I mean, we've done PPC ads, or for example, in an area like Phoenix, PPC can be very, I mean, it turns out to be very expensive. And you have to hire somebody to be on it, stay on top of the algorithms and all that stuff. So I mean, we've closed deals through PPC, but still our ROI, return on investment, is way better on having a small cold calling team, providing them data, and then having go through that process of just dialing out and reaching out to people, see if they want to sell their property. Now, the reason why I like cold calling, still like cold calling best, is when you have a PPC campaign, you have a very targeted lead, right? You're looking for somebody who wants to sell their house, and they'll go to buy my house, terminology, whatnot,
Mhm.
and they'll look up, and forms pop up, and it's all house. What happens on the cold calling is, or what I like to best about cold calling, reaching out to people and actually having conversations, is that you can kind of control the narrative. So one of the things that we started doing a while back is, hey, listen, if you don't want to sell the house, I mean, that's completely understand. Do you have anything else that you would like to maybe contemplate an offer on? We buy land, we buy commercial, we buy multifamily, industrial. And I mean, dude, I can't tell you how many deals we've gotten just off of adding that single, line to the script,
Mhm.
right? A couple of weeks ago in Mesa, I bought a car wash. Today, I'm actually doing a walkthrough on an office commercial building. So it's wholesaling is not just about having that residential. Of course, we market to people who have residential properties because that's where the bread and butter is. But as you get better with the conversations, you can add things to the conversation itself, and then find out if there's more opportunity out there. So
Okay, so you mentioned you have cold callers. Are those cold callers almost virtual assistants, or
yeah,
they are? Okay.
yeah, they're all virtual assistants. Actually, everybody in my team, aside from one person, is a virtual assistant. They're all in the Philippines.
So that's what your
Um,
team looks like. It's you, CEO, and then virtual
right.
assistants. Okay.
Yeah. Director of operations, Rablomi, he manages. And then I have a manager, the lead manager. She manages the cold callers. And then I have an acquisitions rep. He's managed by the director of operations. He's putting in a lot of offers. They have a certain KPI they got to hit. And then we have a marketing VA and a dispo rep in that space. If you build out good protocols, Anthony, I mean, you have the ability to keep your entire operation pretty cost effective.
Hmm. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. Especially with the virtual assistants. And for your virtual assistants, and we've had VA companies come on our show, do you work with a specific company, or are you sourcing them yourself?
At this point, most of them are sourced in house, just because they have friendships and relationships and whatnot, and they start recommending people. They're in the Philippines. I've used Call Magicians; they're a really good company. So that's I mean, I've used a couple of them, but the ones that have given me the best results when it comes to third parties, Call Magicians is one of them.
That's
So
excellent.
yeah, if you're starting off, I mean, if you're just starting to hire and you don't have protocols in place, you don't have like an onboarding process and clear cut instructions on what to do, just go through a third party, bring a VA on, and as they're doing their job, have them document every single step of the journey. Super simple. I mean, go to loom.com, set up an account, and have them document the way that they go through the process of going through your podio or comping deals and whatnot. Next thing you know, you do that enough, and you have a pretty solid standard operating procedure manual in place.
Right, right. No, that's great, especially as you're trying to
Right.
scale pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. You have that team. I think that's important,
Yeah.
especially like you said, it's a volume game. You got a bunch of people, on your team trying to, get you leads, which is great.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So it's mostly single family. Obviously, you mentioned you're doing a car. Now you mentioned some of the deals, um, you don't wholesale. You
Yeah.
either look at buying yourself or whatnot. Is there a large percentage of that, or is it
Um,
like 70% selling
no.
to an end user?
Yeah. I mean, I still wholesale maybe 85% of everything I
Okay.
get.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's my main strategy.
Yeah. And then the other 15%, obviously it depends on what comes across your desk because
Right.
um, some of the deals you want to kind of keep to yourself if they, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Buy and hold. I mean, a lot of it is, or, a big portion of that is fix and flip. So I don't fix and flip too much. I mean, I'll just look at the real juicy stuff and then keep that and kind of select
Yeah.
it. To me, speed is a lot more important than
Mhm.
getting bogged down in a big project that's gonna take me, I don't know, 6 months to complete and pay me out 200. If I knock out 5 deals in the span of a month, and we stay within anywhere from 8 to 12 deals a month.
Mhm.
So keeping that consistency to me is a lot more important. I've done it where I got the shiny object and I wanted to do a lot of everything, it wasn't. I mean, I slowed down on the wholesaling side. It's just didn't pan out right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
yeah.
Gotta stay focused and
One
concentrated.
thing, one thing that I would recommend to anybody who's doing wholesaling or multifamily, right? Like, it doesn't matter what you're looking at. Figure out what your buy box is. Figure out what your criteria for your own personal stuff is, and then stick
Mhm.
to that stuff until you study it and understand a little better.
Absolutely. And before we wrap up, could you talk to us about your podcast, CEO Pulse?
Yeah, so I have two podcasts actually. One is the CEO Pulse podcast, and the
Mhm.
other one is REI Wholesaling podcast. On the CEO Pulse podcast, we talk about the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
And it's, I mean, it's stories, strategies from different verticals. I do a lot of coaching, consulting, and not just real estate wholesaling, but different verticals as well. And then on the REI Wholesaling podcast, that's where we actually break down case studies. We have students that come on and they go through how they close the deals, what their story has been. So it's a pretty cool kind of like live approach on what's going on people who are just getting started and going through the trench work of building up their businesses. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you can check that out on iTunes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Well, we'll
Exactly.
put a link to those two podcasts in our social media description and then also in our iTunes description. And if you liked what you saw and or heard, please give us a rating and review on iTunes. It helps Rafael and myself get our message out to a greater audience. We'd really appreciate it. And we really, look forward to checking out those two podcasts and having you on again in the future, Rafael.
Thanks so much, man. I appreciate you having me.
Is that the best way? What's the best way for my audience to reach out to you? They're
To reach
interested.
out, I'm pretty active on social media. I post a lot of content on wholesaling mindset and I mean just business strategy, all kinds of stuff. So you can find me on IG at Rafael Cortez CEO. My
Okay.
YouTube channel is also pretty active. Rafael Cortez CEO, same thing, same handle.
Excellent. And we'll provide a description to that as well.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Rafael.
Thank you.
Take care.